Okay, I think this will work. Excuse me. As you can tell, it's raining outside. I was wondering if it was going to be too loud. I'm just talking a little bit louder. And typically... Sorry, I'm looking at my windshield wiper. I like to do my videos in my car more now. Mainly because while I have the apartment, there's just I don't like the people around me. So it feels safer to do it in my car. It's more of a sacred space. So hopefully you guys will be okay with the rain. We'll just call it some ASMR. Some nice background noise for a kind of sketchy topic. And it's actually funny because the rain matches my mood today. I'm not really melancholy, but the topic I'm about to talk about is a little, scary to me. I'm a GATE child. GATE, G.A.T.E. stands for Gifted and Talented Education. In the 1970s, GATE programs were created in the U.S. public schools. Not specifically the schools. It actually goes deeper than that. It was a superhuman strategy to kind of help advanced military personnel. So basically, soldiers that have ESP or psychic abilities, or imagine a soldier running into a battle with danger sense, and he can tell when he's about to get shot. Or something crazy like that. Well, then they took it a step further, because they actually made these things called the Gateway tapes, which apparently I've listened to and I didn't realize it. So then they make these people listen to them and practice specific psychic abilities like astral projection or foresight, even anything. Any of the clairvoyance or the clair powers. Anything based off of that. So then they would train these military officers to use psychic abilities. But then they took it a step further and said, wait, what if we can actually find children who can already do this? So by the time they hit adulthood, they're already proficient in their skills. Kind of like Stranger Things. So they make these super soldiers from young children. So in 1970s, GATE programs were created, and public school systems used to identify and educate students who have shown above average intellect, creativity, or academic ability. Now, talking about this, it's triggering my insecurities about talking about myself. Because whenever I open up about myself, people think I'm being egotistical or like an asshole. I'm not. I'm not trying to. So when I say I'm gifted or whatever, it's not coming from an egoic sense. In fact, I have a very negative opinion about this topic. So it came from the Cold War, the space race. Fear was the US was falling behind, so they pushed to find the brightest minds early. Depending on districts, you would get pulled out of class 1 to 2 days a week and have to take advanced reading, math classes, or weird classes. They often felt isolated, bored, or misunderstood, developed perfectionism and anxiety. So this is where it starts getting a little weird for me and I'm getting vulnerable, I can feel it. I was one of them. I didn't realize it. So we're going to dive into my history a little bit. I'm 32. I was homeschooled up until 6th grade. Homeschooled. However, 1st grade and 4th grade, I tried public school. The reason I couldn't do it is because my immune system couldn't handle it, and I kept getting so sick, I would miss like 2 or 3 months at a time. So they got to the point, they're like, just take them out of school, and we'll finish. Well, eventually, 6th grade hit, and they forced me to go to school. I had to. I kept getting sick, but I just barely passed the year. The point is, though, in 4th grade, I was a kid. You know, you don't think about it. We'll start from somewhere else. So, I've been starting to get triggered by TikTok. An algorithm started throwing gateway stuff in my face, and watching some of the videos actually is triggering very specific feelings, very specific memories. And I'm actually starting to get kind of weirded out, a little depressed, a little anxious. And the more I dive into this, the weirder I feel, the worse I feel. I didn't know this, but I was getting pulled out of class 1 to 2 times a week. And I would be forced to sit in a computer lab by myself. And I remember being extremely pissed off because I thought it had to do with my immune system. Even at 4th grade, I understood my body was broken. I kept getting sick. It felt like there was something wrong with me. So I kept getting separated. And I was asking, like, what the hell is going on? Why can't I go with the rest of the kids? It got to the point where they were telling me, oh, they're on a field trip or something, and you're, like, not allowed to go. And I had to stay behind and play on this computer. Well, it upset me, because I thought I was sick. I thought I wasn't allowed to. I was being isolated. And it made me feel damaged. I'm like, what is going on? I thought it was just because it was part of my health issues. Nope. I was sitting at that computer for an hour a day doing, apparently military training. That's not the only part that made sense. The next part, I'm not even covering everything, I'm just covering what's relevant to me. If you want to know more, look up MK Ultra, look up the Gateway program, look up the Gateway tapes, the CIA programs. You'll be able to dig up some information. The next one is another cog in the wheel, or whatever you call it, a pin in the wheel. I've been venturing to malls a lot. I've been trying to reprogram my nervous system and do all this other stuff. And some of the malls I go to are like severely dead, like dead. They have maybe 10 stores in the entire effing mall. And it's freaky. Well, at first, I kind of like it. It's like, I like it. It's adventurous, it feels familiar. Even though it's not. And I'm like, I kind of like it here. It feels like it's a giant playground. But I notice the more and more I stay in the mall, I start getting really anxious and having panic attacks, and sometimes I'll even get lost. Malls I've been in for years. I'll be walking around, and I can't find the exit. I'll see people, but it's like, it's trippy, and I can't get out. Panic takes over, and I can't figure out how to get up a building. Well, then I had another video pop up, and that said, Gateway liminal mall spaces. I was like, I'm sorry, what? What? What do you... So one video talked about people having dreams about a mallscape. A specific mall that's infinite. Kind of like a fun house. Alright, Rain, if you're gonna get louder, I'll just get louder. Ah! I lost. I don't think it's gonna let up. I'll just talk louder. We'll wrap this up really quick. I didn't expect it to get this bad. It's actually getting to mild flooding. Luckily, I'm not moving, so. So, there were these spaces called malls, the mallscape, the dream malls. Well, in the 70s and the 90s, all the way up until that point, malls were safe. Stimulators, structured identities, bright climates, controlled, predictable, and a place where kids could be without supervision. Now, what if these government officials or these CIA made a dimension for our minds or our spirits, and whenever we astral projected, They moved us into these malls to where they watch us and study us and test us. And they essentially built an environment that feels safe and allows us to be ourselves or function. Because when we are ourselves, that's when we truly function our best. What is a liminal space? A liminal space is neither here nor there. It is a space that does not exist. But yet somehow, you're still there. Kind of like time. Time is a liminal space. We can't hold time, you can't put it in a bottle. Well, technically you can, but... I mean, as we continue to understand time, we can shape it, but... we used to think of it as a liminal space. It existed, but we can't touch it, we can't move it, we can't do anything. It's there, but it's not there, kind of thing. Or ghosts, spirits. They're here, but they're not here. That's what liminal essentially means. It exists, but at the same time, it doesn't. Kind of like fourth dimension. It's hard to explain. But then you would essentially get free roam of these malls, where we would play and save and develop our abilities. Then you get the backroom feelings. Hidden hallways serves as parts of the self you weren't allowed to inhabit. So then they take these mallscapes, and it turns out it becomes a mental prison, almost. And then it becomes a way to categorize and store ourselves. So there's this thing called a memory castle, where you're allowed to say, build a castle in your mind. And in this library, this room, I'm going to designate it as memories. And then I'm going to have a pool room where I go to play and relax. So if I need to escape the 3D world, I go into my mental escape, and let's say I want to remember a specific memory. I imagine myself going to the library and pulling out a book, which then will proceed to have the memory. So what if these places were also a way to categorize ourselves? Like the shopping mall, the toy stores where we go to play, the bookstores where we go to learn and study and... I'm not gonna go super into detail. I actually even have a darker theory. Okay, I will say the darker theory. But after this... the scary part is, and this is the part that really dawned on me, the project doesn't end. I'm gonna sound extremely paranoid, and it is what it is. If I sound crazy, I sound crazy, but they never stop watching you. Once they tag you, they follow you. And they watch you as you progress, and they do external things in your environment to stimulate the growth. Or possibly make it worse. I was told you either develop one of two ways. I don't remember what they are. Either you end up becoming a super badass, or you end up collapsing in on yourself. My super dark theory, they're not trying to make super soldiers. That is just a byproduct. I think they're trying to incarnate God. They're not just trying to make super soldiers, that's what they say. I think they're actually trying to force incarnate God. Essentially, make a human that is God. Which, it comes from a very flawed perspective, but it's kind of terrifying. So to know, I actually broke down a little bit. This is extremely hard to talk about. Because, it's really vulnerable. To think that I was a unconscious, unwilling lab rat. And I still am. I can't explain it, but one of the, psychic abilities people can develop is a super depth intuition, which tends to, be like a psychic compass, kind of. One of those things is danger sense, or you can sense when you're being stared at. Or watched. That is actually something our ancestors used to know back in the Mesozoic era. Cavemen used to know this, like just naturally. They would wake up, or they would feel when they're being watched by predators. So it's not like it's a special ability. It's something we used to know. But I've always been able to feel people watching me. And now it all just kind of like it clicked and it made sense, and a wave of dread just washed over me. I'm just like, I don't care how crazy this sounds, I can't deny it anymore. And it scares me. It brings absolute dread to me. There are those who get it. It's basically a form of violation. I'm coping with this. I'm learning how to cope with this because it's... Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to talk too much about my powers, because they're still coming online. I have done a video that explains some of them, and I'll try to link it. Well, that's all I had to say about this. I really wish I could say more, but I can't. I have to release it in parts. So, we'll call it here. I'm gonna go lay down. I'm gonna go take a nap.